Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
The future is ours. Every ideal nightmare of a Muslim Europe will come true. They can be as mad as they want. I don't care. America will be a Muslim country. Russia will be a Muslim country. Islam will enter every house, inshallah. But we have to be a part of that change and never, ever apologize. We're unapologetic. Never, ever compromise. We're uncompromising.
When people say that Islam is not compatible with Western society, with a pluralistic society, this is exactly what we are talking about. You have this imam who is just casually saying in the UK out loud that America is going to become a Muslim country, Russia is going to become a Muslim country, that Islam is going to enter every house. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I hear that, I don't think of a missionary project. I don't think of Islamic proselytizing. I don't think of him referring to Muslims converting people over to Islam through love and acceptance, which, by the way, is not really a large factor in the growth of Islam. It's primarily driven by high birth rates. But he's clearly not talking about faith or a personal belief. He's referring to a political takeover. His language is the language of conquest, and that is the language of people who think that the West is weak enough for them to come in and replace. The United Kingdom, where this imam is saying this, proves why they feel so bold enough to say this. Look at what's happening there. Nobody in America gets told any of this, but in parts of London and Bradford and Birmingham and Luton, the police won't even enforce basic laws if it risks community tensions. They have totally redefined the definition of Islamophobia to include race when Muslim is not a race. Their politicians have no backbone. They have no spine. They have entire neighborhoods where extremist preachers literally have more influence than the parliament. There are schools where kids are bullied for being too Western. Politicians as well as police and authorities have openly admitted that they don't talk about this. They don't say a word because they're terrified of offending the wrong people. It has gone beyond the idea of diversity. It has become a cultural surrender, and I'm sorry, the UK's done. There is no recovering from what has happened to the UK. And I already know that people are going to come in and say, oh, well, this imam doesn't represent all Muslims. Obviously, I know it doesn't. Most Muslims, or at least a lot of them, don't want any part of this ideology of the takeover, but this is the strain of political Islam. This triumphalist, we're going to dominate the West mindset is very real, and pretending that it doesn't exist is, again, exactly how the UK got caught flat-footed in the first place. Every warning was dismissed as racist or Islamophobic until the reality became too obvious to hide. And by the way, since the 60s, the UK's public opinion have continuously shown that they reject the influence of Islam in their society, and that they think the immigration policy has been horrible, and they think that too many people have been coming into their country and their politicians did nothing. And I'm sorry, but this whole we're never going to apologize, we're never going to compromise, never water anything down in our religion, it's not religious devotion. It is, again, political absolutism. That is a vision of society where pluralism does not exist, where you cannot disagree, where you do not coexist with people, you overtake them.
Welcome back, America, to Whistleblower Wednesday here. The Rob Maness Show's live on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast. The storm of Islam is already in America, and I know the powers that be told you it was Islamophobia or racism to oppose these cavemen and their death cult coming to our shores. They've literally raped and pillaged Western European lands and our leaders let them for the sake of some idiotic ideology called diversity. They want the entire world to be Muslim. They're using leftists to achieve this goal. Thousands of Muslims recently gathered for prayer in Times Square, New York City. And the comments on social media posts that showed it overwhelmingly called for America to be a Muslim country. By the way, just a reminder, New York City just voted for Zohran Mamdani, a Muslim Marxist, as their mayor. There's open blocking of public spaces for prayers 5 times a day, and it's happening in large cities across this country. And there have even been incidents of citizens being attacked for using cameras to film these invasions of areas that belong to all of us. Hamas-supporting Islamists are harassing Christian church attendees openly right now. In New York City, at St. Patrick's, you will see it if you go check it out. It's happening right now. It's going to happen all throughout the Christmas holidays. What would happen if Christians gathered outside a mosque or two and blocked the public space at random to hold a giant prayer service and witness the gospel to them? Do you get it yet, folks? Well, my guest today is Pastor Dan. Gulfport, Mississippi. He's another shining example of a Christian husband, father, and brother. He hosts a show called Freedom Frontline. Check it out. Well, Dan recently went to New York City on a mission trip and actually debated Muslims in several mosques in the city. And that's why I asked him to come on today to help get this word out. And it really shouldn't be on Whistleblower Wednesday. You should already know this. That young man that just did that video is fantastic. I don't know if he's being paid to do it or not, but he understands how to articulate the right message. It's coming. It's here already. And if you wait until things happen like what's happening in the UK right now, it'll be too late. Dan, welcome back to the Rob Maness Show.
Rob, thanks for having me on. And it's always a pleasure to be on your show and to talk about the United States of America. And I want to say right from the beginning, thank you for blowing the whistle on what's happening. And I wish that more people would have these type of conversations, because here's what people need to understand about the Muslim world is that it is much different. It is much different than Christianity. And whenever you look at, I was, like you mentioned, I was just in New York City, and I went to several different mosques and I debated, and we'll get into that here in a moment. But I believe that one of the main issues in America is the fact that the Muslims are coming to take over, but it's the fact that the Christians are letting it happen. It's the fact that Christians are being silenced. It's the fact that Christians aren't saying anything. It's the fact that Christians are so scared of their faith, and they're scared that they might offend someone, that they're not willing to stand and push back against this ideology of the Muslim world, which is not just to come in here and win elections. But I don't think people really understand what it means for America to be a Muslim country. Your freedoms that you know as of today, those freedoms are gone. I mean, they are no longer here. I mean, you just look at, a lot of these countries that are predominantly 97, 98% Muslim. Go look at the freedoms that women have, in these countries. Go look at the freedoms that students have. Those freedoms are gone. And Christians, they're just being quiet. Listen, I'm a President Trump supporter. I have a right here on my desk. I've got an autographed Donald Trump, Make America Great Again hat. But if we keep allowing and if we keep promoting these Muslims, that Make America Great Again will never happen. It's going to turn into Make America American again, because it's going to turn into a Muslim country. And so I am not a proponent at all of promoting any type of Muslims whatsoever, whether in the White House, whether in City Hall or county courthouses. We cannot promote this Muslim religion I'm hearing people say it's a peaceful religion. What have you ever not read the Quran? I have a Quran sitting right over here, here in my office. Yeah. And I can point out several passages where they talk about killing the infidel. And ladies and gentlemen, the infidel that the Quran is referring to is Christians. That is the infidel. They don't want to come here and just win elections. They want to come here and take over. They want to do away with our very way of life. And if the Muslim world if they get what they want, that's exactly what they'll do. Rob, you mentioned I was in New York City. My son and I went there on a mission trip, and we had about 30 or so teenagers. And my son he was in a very strong Muslim, Albania. It was an Albanian Muslim neighborhood, very
Right.
strong Albanian Muslim. So he was teaching the children and the teenagers in this Muslim community about Jesus Christ. And these Muslims, they allowed their children to come. Very poor area. They allowed their children to come. And of course, we had games and candy and all kind of things for the kids. While
Yep.
my son was doing that, I went to the mosque. I went to the Albania mosque that's ran by Albanians, and then I went to a mosque that was ran by Iranian people from Iran. Iranian
Hmm.
Muslims is what they were called.
Yeah.
So I was in this Iranian Muslim mosque, and I was there. There was probably 150 men that was in this room with me. I was sitting at a table by myself. There was another Muslim table. I had about 6 or 7 Muslims at that table, and there was the imam, this older Muslim was there, and he asked me right off the bat, like within the first 7 or 8 minutes, he asked me where I believed that Muhammad was at. He said, "Where do you believe Muhammad is at?" And I didn't want to answer the question because I knew that once I answered that question, this debate was over. They was going to, I
Right.
didn't tell them what could happen. I was by myself. And
Hmm.
I didn't want to answer the question. So I said, I'll get to that later on in the debate. Well, he came back and asked me again, and he asked me again. And I said, and I was trying to be very, diplomatic, very, whatever. But I answered the question
Hmm.
because he wouldn't leave me alone about where I believe Muhammad was at. And it has nothing to do with the fact that he was a Muslim or he wasn't, a Christian. It has everything to do with his relationship with Jesus Christ.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I said where I believed he was at. And boy, these guys went crazy. Like they began to curse me. I mean, they ran me out of this mosque and told me never to step back foot on their property again. And they invited me. I mean, I was an
Hmm.
invitation. They invited me to come. So then the next day I went to the Albanian mosque and I was sitting there, same thing, 150 men sitting in the room. There was 6 men at a table. It was me at my table and by myself. And we began to have a conversation. And those Albanians, those Muslims were much different than the Muslims the day before. We had about an hour and 15-minute conversation, debate going back and forth about Muhammad and Jesus. And
Hmm.
it was a very good debate. But it was very clear in the conversation in both mosques that it's not that they necessarily don't want to just take over in the government world, but they also want to shove their religion down our throat as Christians. And they want us to adopt their view as far as the Muslim world. And whenever you look at the Quran and you look at the Muslims and the Muslims of the past and what they're doing now in the UK, as a young man was talking about, and what they want to do in our large cities, it is not a
Hmm.
peaceful takeover. I mean, they want to absolutely destroy the very foundations that this country was built upon is what they want to do. And if they have their way, and if we continue on the path that we're on right now, you and I will see it in our lifetime as it is growing increasingly. The numbers are growing every single day. And Rob, I believe one of the main reasons and the main part of that is because so many Christians are just so quiet. I hear
Yeah.
preachers say, I don't want to say certain things from the pulpit because I don't want to offend. I don't know what these guys are thinking. Like, I don't know what they're thinking.
Yeah. Dan, we got to take a break here in a minute, though, but I just want to say thank you for telling the story. And I've got some questions about your experiences with the individual Muslim families directly, if you had any interaction with them or some of your son's stories for the next segment.
Absolutely.
Because I think that, I mean, here's something about America, today's America, that most Americans don't know is that every state constitution that was in existence when the Constitution of the United States Bill of Rights was adopted, the First Amendment, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, the First Amendment, which guarantees freedom of religion. Every state constitution had a state supported religion in it called Christianity. And that is what a lot of people don't realize. And we have gone through 250 years now of this peeling away layer after layer after layer, where now we have pastors in the pulpit that have no spine. They do not have the courage, and worst of all, they don't have the knowledge that's needed to properly talk to their congregations about this subject. And I'm glad you joined me today, because we need a pastor that can talk about this subject. Dan, we'll be right back after this commercial on Worldview Tube.
Do you appreciate all the free programming we produce here at Worldview Tube? Well, if you do, we need your partnership now. If you're already supporting us, thank you. If you're not, would you please consider doing so? We have to have a big November and December end of the year giving. Please go here right now to this website, worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. You can give through credit card. You can give through PayPal. You'll find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. You'll also find our phone number. Simply use that phone number by leaving a voicemail for Melissa or texting her, and my wife will get back with you and help you make your contribution over the phone. We send out tax receipts with our EIN number, well, the first week of February of each year. We, again, have to have a very big November and December as we get ready for pushing out more Christian Worldview programming for 2026. So thank you for going now to worldviewfoundation.com. That's worldviewfoundation.com.
When I was an extremist, Islamist, fundamentalist, I would only vote left.
Why is that?
I saw them as very stupid. I would fear the conservatives because they come with principle. That's not someone they can brainwash. But the left, I know they have no values and no principles to begin with. I dare you to find one Islamic extremist that votes for Donald Trump. Never do it. They'd give their vote to the leftist who wants to run around in pride parades. And Islamic extremists are against gays and homosexuals and transgenders, but they want the left to go and get busy with that. They want them, go speak about the climate, go speak about abortion, go kill yourselves, go do that. Ilhan Omar, she's fighting for abortion rights and all the other, my body, my choice. Yes, go do that, But would she have an abortion? Never. Never. Would she kill a Muslim in her stomach? Never.
What is the fundamentalist and jihadi agenda for America?
The future of America has to be Muslim.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. The storm of Islam is already in America, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we're doing this show. And we have to unify as Christians around understanding this issue, because this is not about a First Amendment freedom to practice a religion issue. That's why I brought up the state constitutions. The states that approved the First Amendment already had established a state religion. That amendment was about the federal centralized government. And that is something that people in America today do not understand. And it's the reason why the leadership of Christianity in this country, by and large, not all, but by and large, are soft on Islam, which is not a religion. It is an ideology of conquering and tyranny. There is no doubt about it, and it's not compatible with the Constitution of the United States of America. And any elected official that takes an oath to the Constitution but allows something like Sharia law or women and children to be treated like chattel slaves and those kinds of things because of their religion should be thrown out of office and, quite frankly, denaturalized if they're citizens and thrown out of this country. Because, as Donald Trump said yesterday, we don't want them and we don't need them. And we're going to save our culture and we're going to save our society. And my guest today is Pastor Dan Carr, a good friend of mine from right here. And he is not one of those pastors that lacks the spine and courage to speak out about this issue. Dan, welcome back. I appreciate you, man, for being with me today to discuss this. It's very important. It's very important, and yesterday I did a show on Christian Zionism with the CEO of Worldview Tube, Brandon House, because he's done a 3-part series now on why he's a Christian Zionist. And I got texts from friends saying, hey, You shouldn't get in the middle of this. This is dangerous, Rob. And I said, no, I have to get in the middle of this. I'm a Christian, and I support the Israel of the Bible. I have to get into this. It's my not only my role, it's my right and responsibility. And this issue of Islamism, I have to get into it. I've been dealing with Islamists since I was a boy. When I first lived with them started living with them in North Africa at about 9 years old, and it's gone all the way up through my life. I'm 64 years old now, and I'm doing this show today for the purpose, because I've been through 9/11, 20-something years of the global war on terrorism, and it wasn't about any other type of terrorist except for Islamic terrorism from a United States perspective, Dan. So when you were in New York City, though, with your son and those young people talking in these neighborhoods with Muslims, what was your take outside of the mosque? Did you interact with any of the Muslim families? And what kind of things did you hear from them?
So when we were in a lot of these neighborhoods, most of the adults in the neighborhoods, and even most of the adults that was in the mosque, could not speak English. So like a lot of the adults that the children could, all of the children could speak English, and they all went to, American schools, and they could all speak English. So the children could speak English. Most of the parents could not speak English. So I don't know what the parents were saying, to the children, because the parents that we did speak to, out of 10 parents, that were all Muslims, 9 of the 10 couldn't speak any English. And so we would talk to them through their children. And I'm not even sure what the children was saying to the parents, what kind of Bible club we were having. And so because we couldn't understand, obviously, we told the children that we were going to be teaching the Bible and talking about the Bible. And a lot of the children came. As a matter of fact, there was 8 of the teenagers, because my son was dealing with teenagers, 8 teenagers that week accepted Christ as their Savior. And so, and all 8 of them, and this is what people need to really understand. All 8 of them were scared about telling their parents. They didn't want to tell their parents because they didn't want to know the outcome. Listen, Rob, I have been dealing and talking and witnessing to Muslims for many years. I have yet to win a Muslim to Christ. I have yet, and I have seen several Muslims. I have a couple that come to my church. I have yet to win a Muslim to Christ where they was excited about going and telling their family, because they knew when they told their family was going to pretty much cut them off. Their family was going to, some of them even, their family had a funeral for them and never talk to them again. I know several Muslims. Now, there's some Muslims that I'm working with that they do have some type of relationship. Oh, they're not Muslim anymore, they're Christian, but their family's Muslim. And their family, after many years, their family is kind of accepting, letting them come back into the family. But they're like, we don't want to talk about your Christian faith, but we'll kind of let you come back around, for holidays and birthdays and stuff like that. And so I have yet to witness, see a Muslim accept Christ. Matter of fact, there was one Muslim, this has been many years ago, she lived on the coast, and she came to church with a coworker, and I went to her house, and after about 6 months, she accepted Christ as her Savior. The threats that she was getting was so great, Rob, that and it was from her family, that she had to move. She had to move to a completely different state. This isn't America. She had to move to a completely different state because she was worried about her own life because she had accepted Christ. So what do you think these Muslims would do to people like you and me? I mean, who totally 100% oppose their religion. And so in the neighborhoods, the children were very receptive to, like, my son and the other teenagers that we had. They were very receptive.
Yeah.
The Albanian parents in the neighborhood, of course, I couldn't talk to them. They didn't speak English, but they was nice to us. Yeah. The Iranian Muslims, they were 100% anti everything that we were doing. I mean, they was trying to run us out of their neighborhood. Didn't want us in their neighborhood. I mean, cursing. I mean, all kind of crazy things that they were doing. The Albanians were completely different. They did treat us different than the Muslims from Iran. And so now they didn't speak English either. I mean, they didn't speak English either. As a matter of fact, in both mosques, they had an interpreter, for what I was saying, in both mosques. And even the children would have to relate to the parents what we were saying because they didn't speak English. I'm going to go back to what you said earlier about Donald Trump. So Donald Trump, we just stopped Muslims from coming to our country from, I think, 19 countries.
Yeah.
I don't think that's enough. I think we need to stop Muslims from coming into this country from every Muslim country in the world. I don't think they should be allowed. Every Muslim country in the world. Rob, I'm going to take it even a step further. And I'm going to say something that some of your viewers might even think that I'm crazy, and you might even think I'm crazy whenever I say this. And so I apologize, if you think I'm crazy for saying what I'm about to say. Not only should we stop every single Muslim country from allowing people to come into this country, not only should we stop them, but we should stop trade with every Muslim country in the world. We should stop trade. We should absolutely cut every single one of them off 100%. And I know some people will think, well, that's to the extreme. If we're going to win this, we have to cut it off. Cut off immigration. We shouldn't allow Muslims to come into this country from any country, and take it a step further. And we should stop trade right now. We should stop trade with every single Muslim country. We have to starve them out. What's going to happen is they are going to continue coming to America, and they're going to continue getting stronger in America. And they're going to continue, if we stay on the road we're on right now, they're going to continue winning elections in America. And we're going to see more like what's happening in Michigan, more what's happening in New York City. We're going to see more of that happening all over the United States of America. So if we're going to fight this battle, we're going to have to go to the extreme. Stop every single Muslim country. You say, well, that's a lot of countries. So be it. Stop every single one of them from coming to America. You say, well, that's a lot of countries we got to stop trade with. Stop trade with every single one of them. The United States of America will be 100% fine. It will be okay. America's not going to crumble. America's not going to be brought to her knees if we stop trade with these Muslim countries. What will happen is some of these Muslim countries will be brought to their knees. Some of these Muslim countries, they will soon wake up and understand, hey, look, we got to straighten up if we're going to do any trade with the United States of America. That's where I'm at right now today when it comes to dealing with these Muslim countries.
Yeah, Dan, you're going to get called an extremist now, and a racist bigot, and an anti-capitalist, too. But you know what? You have some good standing in that, and I'll go into this after the break. I want to take a question from the audience. We have an audience member that's got a question real quick before we get to this break. Go ahead, AJ.
Thank you, Colonel, sir. Pastor Carr, it's a pleasure. What do you think, from your perspective, is the most attractive attribute of Islam to the non-Christian kids that they get to basically brush, shoulders with, via which I should say, that have a tendency to grab them and pull them in their way? It's sort of I was born into Shia Islam myself, and I know the answer to that question because I was one of them. But I wanted to know what your answer to that question is, given the fact that you are actually on the other side of the pulpit. With that, thank you.
So I've talked to a couple of Christians who converted over to Islam, and then they converted back to Christianity. And so, matter of fact, there's one young man right now that I talk to almost every single day. He was Christian, grew up Christian home, converted over to Islam. He has just recently converted back to Christianity. And here's what he said, and I'm going to use his words verbatim, if I can get it 100% accurate. And this speaks to the detriment of the church in America. And I'm going to get to that here in a little bit, whenever it comes to talking about what we need to do. If we get this far, talk about what we need to do. But here's what he said. When it comes to the church, he felt as if the church didn't need him, was one thing that he said. He felt that he wasn't accepted in the church, is another thing he said. And what he said about the Muslim mosque that he started going to, and he started having fellowship with these people, was that they had accepted him for who he was and how he was. And here's what he said that kind of blew me away. He said he felt more love in the Muslim community than he felt in the Christian community. And that really tore at my heart whenever he said that. And because whenever you look at the church, ladies and gentlemen, the reason why we're talking about this problem, it's not a government problem. It is a church problem. It is an issue that we're having because the church is not doing what it should do in these communities. And people will hear what I said a while ago about, cutting off Muslims from coming to America and cutting off these countries. Listen, it's not the people that I'm cutting off. It's not the people that I want to cut off. It is that ideology of the Muslim religion that I want to cut off. I love people. I enjoy being around people of all walks of life. I enjoy being around people from all different types of nations. I just got back from Mexico last week. I mean, I take mission trips and go all over the world. I love being around people. It is not the people that I want to cut off because I love people. It's that I don't want that ideology coming to America that is going to fundamentally change our nation and not make it better, but make it 10 times worse. That is what I'm opposed to. So when people say to me, you're a racist bigot, no, I'm not a racist bigot. I just don't want ideology coming to America that's going to destroy America. So let's shut that down and keep that from coming to America.
Exactly right. We got to take another break, but when we come back, I want to touch on this cutting off trade issue real quick because I have a question for you about that based on some things that I know about slavery. We'll be right back with Dan Carr.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
We're done hiding. We're done. We're done being tortured and hurt and judged. This is the correct religion. This is the religion that all of humanity needs to be upon, of Islam. And we will not stop until it enters every home. So I want you to repeat after me. I want to hear it in every single district. It should tremble. Brooklyn should hear it. The Bronx should hear it. Queens should hear it. Say it as if the Ummah depends on this, my brothers and sisters. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Muhammadan Rasulullah. There is no God worthy of worship except Allah, the God of Jesus, the God of Moses, the God of Abraham, and the God of the last and final prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show on Worldview Tube, and we're live on our X Spaces simulcast too. And I know we're having some audio difficulties with that because of the X platform and their third-party provider. Hopefully, you guys are providing feedback to X about that, and they'll get this problem fixed. It's been going on for several weeks now, if not months. And my guest today is Pastor Dan Carr from right here in our hometown here in Gulfport, Mississippi. But Dan is also done many missions around the world and was recently up in New York City. And that was in Times Square just days ago, folks, not very long ago, right there. And that guy is, aside from committing blasphemy from a biblical perspective, is an example of what the conquering nature of Islam, political Islam, is all about. It's where jihadism comes from, the violent takeover and the violent attacks on other nations, especially Christian nations. That's where it comes from. You can feel it emanating from him, and he is 100% on board with political Islam, which needs to be eradicated from the United States of America, because our country will fall like the other Western European countries are falling right now if we don't do something about it. And then, in that last segment, you talked about cutting these Islamic countries off on trade. It made me think about something I was just refreshing my memory about and reading about today, Dan, and that is the slavery that still exists in the world today. And I know the soft leftist, communist, Marxist, progressive idiots in America and some of the folks that think they're in the center in America, but they're really on the far left because the left has been able to move the center away from Americanism, the Americanism of the Constitution and the Declaration, and towards Marxism and Democrat socialism and those kind of things. I know that they are going to say slavery doesn't exist. That's a white man thing. White people did that. That's baloney. Today, as I speak to you now, every Gulf Arab state, every Islamic state has slaves in it. Every single one of them. Because especially in places like Saudi Arabia and the kingdom, because those citizens there, they're not going to do the crap work that needs to be done to run a society. They hire indentured servants. They treat them like slaves. They dress them in orange and blue coveralls like prisoners. And they don't protect them under the laws that they should be protecting them under. And they treat them just like slaves were treated in this country for many, many years before it was eradicated. That's a problem. We ought not be doing trade with countries that have that type of infrastructure in their economies. So Dan's got a point, a very valid point, that the United States of America and the West should not be doing trade with countries like that. We should use our economic power to force them to abandon that concept anywhere we find it. So, Dan, welcome back. Sorry, I went a little long there, but I wanted to get that out to let you know that, your idea is not extremist. It's not crazy. There are valid and just reasons to be thinking about a policy like that.
Rob, you're right. And unfortunately, one of the arguments from the left, anytime there's a disagreement and they don't have anything to come back on, their argument is, well, you're just a racist, or you're this, or you're that. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. It's like I said in that segment earlier. I am not against, I'm not against immigration, right? I am for immigration. I am for people coming to the United States of America. What I'm not for is people coming to the United States of America that brings in this religion that will fundamentally change the United States of America. Listen, if I lived in one of these other countries, I would be wanting to get to the United States of America as quickly as I possibly could. This is the land of the free. This is the land of liberty. This is the land of where people can have opportunity to work and to make money and to build their families and things of that nature. I would absolutely want to get here as quickly as I could. I'm not against immigration. I just want people to come here legally. And I want people to come here that are going to adopt the American way of life, not bringing in this ideology of wanting to take over and destroy. I do not want America to become like Iran. I do not want America to become like Afghanistan or Iraq or Turkey or Egypt. I don't want the United States of America, listen, I don't want the United States of America to become like Russia or North Korea or any of these other countries. I want the United States of America to remain free and liberty. Men and women can choose where they want to work. Men and women can choose their own way of life. And yet I might disagree with someone's way of life, but they have the right to choose their way of life. And so whenever you look at religion, right, Islam is much more than just a religion.
Mm-hmm.
In America, there's all different types of religions, right? You have Baptist, you have Pentecostal, you have Catholic, you have Presbyterian. I mean, there's a whole list of religions. You have Jehovah Witness, you have Mormon, lots of different religions, and there's lots of differences amongst those religions. But here's what I'm going to say: is that first off, you don't go to heaven because of your religion. You go to heaven because of Jesus Christ. Jesus is he should be, now he's not, unfortunately, in a lot of religions, but Jesus should be the common denominator among all religions, is that Jesus is the way to heaven. I'm not going to heaven because I'm a Baptist. You're not going to go to heaven because of whatever religion you are. It's because of Jesus Christ. That's why you're going to go to heaven. The Pentecostals are not trying to fundamentally change America. They abide by the Constitution. The Baptists are not trying to fundamentally change America. The Catholics are not trying to fundamentally change America. They're not holding town hall meetings with all of their different their religion, talking about how we want to take over America and we want to change America. The Muslims are. The Islam, they are doing that. They are trying to fundamentally change the very foundation of this country. And that's why I say stop every Muslim from coming. Stop every trade with these countries, because they are trying to fundamentally change and destroy the nation that we know. It has nothing to do with the people. It has everything to do with their religion and their ideology. That's what it has to do with, not their religion. Because there are Muslims that are white. There are Muslims that are black. There are Muslims that are from the Middle East. There are Muslims right now in Africa that are killing Christians by the thousands. And so, what are you going to do? Let them into America? No, I'm against. I want to stop every one of them. Every Muslim. I don't care what country they're from. I don't care what the color of their skin is. That ideology needs to be stopped from coming to this country. It needs to be stopped 100%.
Yeah, you've seen what's going on with all this massive fraud that the Somali community in Minneapolis, Minnesota has achieved, where they've transferred billions of American tax dollars over to fund the terrorist organizations in Somalia, the Islamist terrorist organizations in Somalia. I agree with President Trump that we should be looking at those folks. He's removed their temporary protected status if they're refugees or recent migrants. And he has even said, if somebody has broken our law and violated the oath they took when they became a naturalized citizen, we should be able to denaturalize them and deport them. We don't need people like that. And these people, this particular group, has broken our laws even after becoming citizens. And in my opinion, you can't be an Islamist and take an oath to the Constitution like these naturalized citizens have and really mean it. So we should probably denaturalize most of them. Now, there may be one or two folks that are able to assimilate to America and have assimilated to America, but by and large, they're not doing it if they're transferring billions of your tax dollars over to fund the terrorists.
I see Islam more like a military than I do a religion. Because whenever you look at, military, which I believe we have the greatest military in the world, our United States military, there's none like it. None ever has been like it. None ever will be like it. It's the greatest ever. But whenever you look at Islam, we almost need to quit calling it a religion. It's a military, and they are militant, because they'll get very, very brutal fast. I mean, they'll get physical very fast, and they want to take over, and they want to change the laws, but they don't want to change the law by doing it. Let me give you an example. We have a constitution, and there has been constitutional amendments, correct?
Yeah.
We have several constitutional amendments, and there's a way, if we're going to amend the Constitution, there's a way to do that. We have a proper way to amend the Constitution, correct?
Correct.
They don't want to change the Constitution constitutionally. They want to change it by force. They want to shove their laws down our throats by force. not by constitutional amendments. So that is one way you look at it and say, these people, that's not a religion. That is a military. They're coming in and trying to take over. They're trying to change our laws, not constitutionally. They just win an election and they think, well, because I'm the mayor, that I can just enforce all of these laws. We have a constitution for a reason. And I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian, what religion you are. If you're not willing to abide by the Constitution, then you don't belong in the United States of America. You don't belong.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. We saw it in Dearborn, Michigan over the last 3 weeks or so. And Dan, we got to take our last break. When we come back, this show's going way too fast, folks, but it's information we got to get out there. We'll see a clip about what Dan's talking about, where they get vicious very quickly. And this clip is in the Bronx, I believe. We'll be right back on Worldview Tube.
But with Brandon, it's always cutting edge stuff happening in the world. And it's not just from the political angle, because you can get that on other platforms, but it's always from the biblical angle. So you're dealing with a guy that loves Jesus, you're dealing with a guy that's very intelligent, you're dealing with a guy that is cutting edge conservatism, and you're dealing with a guy that wants to be biblical all at the same time. And so for that reason alone, I hope many, many people will not just lift up his ministry in prayer, but will also financially get behind it, because from the angle I'm trying to describe, he really is the only game in town. And we desperately need it in these last days. Can I get an amen to that?
I can't, because this is America.
But you cannot take us.
Who? Who said?
Me.
What gives you special privilege?
You cannot take us, please.
Who said that?
You cannot do that.
Don't touch my phone. Happening right now in the Bronx.
ربنا فاغفر لنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار ربنا وآتنا ما وعدتنا.
Are you taking videos?
Yep, I am. What happened? You want to ask me why I'm taking video?
Yeah.
Because I can't, because this is America. That's
I'm not
why.
saying don't take it.
Okay,
I said why.
okay. I can't, because this is America.
But you cannot take us.
Who? Who said?
Me.
What gives you special privilege?
You cannot take us, please.
Who said that to
You cannot do that.
Don't touch my phone.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Can you go? I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. This is fucking America.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. And the storm of Islam is already in America, ladies and gentlemen. And it's time to, especially if you're a leader of a Christian congregation, to find your spine and dig deep down and highlight the truth. Have the courage to talk to your congregation so that they receive the truth. And the truth is, Islam is not a religion. It is a violent ideology that conquers and converts by force. And it's even a concept described in the Quran and the other documents that go with the Quran for the Islamic fundamentalist religions. And my guest today is Pastor Dan Carr, right here in Gulfport, Mississippi, who's been on mission trips up to New York City. That was the Bronx right there. Just within the last few weeks, Dan, and what I've noticed seeing is that they've come out and they're blocking streets and sidewalks for their prayers 5 times a day. And I'm not opposed to Islamists going to their mosque and praying, or in their homes, or even one person maybe that's right outside the store where they work or something. But to prevent Americans from being able to do the things that Americans do, and then get violent on them when they object to the restriction unlawful restriction that somebody's trying to put on them because of this Islamist tyranny. That's unacceptable. It's unacceptable not only in this country, but anywhere in the world. But that's what's happening now. And that's the kind of things that I've seen in all of the Islamic countries that I've had to serve in and live in since I was 9 years old, is force. The use of force is what they do to get you to comply, to get you to convert, and the threat of death. That is totally different than Christianity, where you witness the gospel of Jesus Christ and people are won over to Christ because of the love that comes through the proper preaching the gospel story of Jesus Christ. And it's look, the words, he's knocking at the door, but you have to open the door and let him in. That's a totally different concept than this Islamist concept. And that's why our country's at risk.
Things that I would like to give, if we have time, to talk about on a how we get a spiritual renewal in America. I said this earlier, and I want to make something clear. I don't think that we need to go start rounding up everyone that's not Christian, that's a Muslim, and start shipping them back to whatever country that they might have come from. A lot of Muslims were born here. They've been raised. I'm not saying let's go ship them home. What I'm saying is we need to stop anybody. We need to stop people from coming here from other countries. That's what we need. We need to just stop that. Don't let anybody else in. Stop it. Let's get a handle on what's happening. Let's get a handle on, this Islamic religion and this force that they're coming in and trying to take over our nation. And so that's what I'm saying. The people that are here, America as we know it, we're going to lose America if the church doesn't wake up. If the Christians don't wake up. Let me ask your audience, let me ask you this question. Of course, don't answer it, but the question is, how much time do we pray a week for America? They say the average Christian prays less than 5 minutes a week. 5 minutes a week. The Muslims are praying 5 times a day.
Yeah.
5 times a day. They get on their rug and they look toward the east and they pray 5 times a day. Average Christian prays 5 minutes a week. 5 minutes a week. I'm going to say this. If we were as committed to Jesus Christ as the Muslims were committed to Muhammad, we wouldn't have this problem in America. But we have this problem in America is because the Christian is not committed to Christ. We put a higher priority on little league sports than we do going to church on Sunday. We put a higher priority on college football. There's been more conversations about Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss around Thanksgiving than ever about how good God's been to America. We have so many idols in America. We hold NFL athletes to an idol stage. We put so much emphasis on things in America as Christians, and we don't put the emphasis on our faith. We don't pray. So I'm going to say it again. If we were just committed to the cause of Christ, as Muslims were committed to Muhammad, we would have this problem in America. We have this problem in America because the Christian is not praying. So the first thing that we need is to rebuild a national commitment to prayer, to where Christians are praying every single day for America. Daniel gives us a good basis of prayer. Daniel prayed 3 times a day. He prayed in the morning, he prayed in the afternoon, and he prayed in the evening. People say, well, I don't have time to pray. If you don't have time to pray, then you're way too busy. Your priorities are all out of whack. I'm not saying that we have to walk around like monks and praying, 24/7. What I am saying is that we as Christians are to be praying. And so we need to restore that in America. We need to rebuild that in America of going to our knees every single day and praying for our country. That's what America needs. It needs every Christian every single day crying out to God for a national revival. We saw a lot of that after Charlie Kirk. When Charlie Kirk passed away, we saw a lot of that. When 9/11 happened over 20 years ago, we saw a lot of patriotism in America. But that soon passed. We just saw New York City elect a Muslim. Patriotism is gone in New York City.
Yeah.
Charlie Kirk is passing. We saw a lot of people going back to church, people talking about a revival. I'm seeing less of that now. We move on. We're moving
Yes,
on.
we do.
And so we need to get back to praying. We need to get back to church. We need to get back to going to church like every Sunday. Like, I'm not talking about living at church, but I'm talking about going back to church. The church needs to become the church. And so many Christians, they think, well, the church is inside those four walls. We've got it all messed up. We are the church. We are the church. I am the church. You are the church. And we are to be taking the church to people every single week and having these conversations with people in our neighborhoods, in our schools, in our workplaces. People are so scared that they don't want to offend somebody.
That's right.
The question is, did Jesus ever offend anybody?
I just talked about that the other day. You know, we you know, the West, especially American Christians, have softened Jesus, especially those on the left. They've softened up the real Jesus. The real Jesus is the one that turned over the money changers' table and whipped them out of the temple. The real Jesus is the one that every single time, Dan, that I've read in the Bible where he spoke to a sinner, he used this phrase or some form of it: go and sin no more and follow me. And that is the Jesus that people really need to know. Some might call him the mean Jesus, but he's the tough love Jesus, because that's what Jesus is all about, is tough love. We're all born sinners, and through the grace of God, he was sent down here to take their sins so we could achieve salvation. You know, but it wasn't through being soft. It was through preaching the word of God and insisting that people follow the right path.
Yeah, there was this preacher the other day. He got it from behind his pulpit, and he started talking about how he was no longer a man and he was a transgender now. That's garbage. That is wicked and straight out of the very pit of hell. You know, people want to act like Jesus would accept that mess. No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't accept that. That is garbage.
No,
garbage.
That matter of fact, that person's not worshiping God or Jesus. They're worshiping Satan and his demons, as far as I'm concerned.
He's not worshiping the same God that I'm worshiping. That's for I'm sure.
Yeah, and neither is Islam, by the way.
That's right.
I do not believe for a second. That's why I used the term blasphemy in that one clip where the guy was talking about that Allah is the God of Jesus Christ and Moses and Abraham, and that's not in my opinion. Not because the Quran takes you way far afield of the God of Abraham and the path that Jesus Christ has given us to salvation, in my opinion. We got a couple minutes left. I got a hand in the audience. I want to take that real quick, give you a chance to respond to him. Go ahead, Shell.
Sir. Hey, Colonel, Pastor Dan, listening to everything you said, I do agree with you 100%, but I do have a question for you. What do we do about the leadership in this country? And I'm not necessarily speaking about President Trump and people inside his administration, but, you know, people in Congress for the last 20, 30 years, they've allowed this, gone along with the narrative, and pushed us as Americans to accept the Muslim Brotherhood and Muslims in this country. What do you think we should do about that, sir?
Rob, I think I heard the question right. Was he asking about the last 20, 30 years people in Congress were pushing to accept?
Yeah, our leadership at every level has pushed Americans to accept this garbage. That's how we ended up with Somalis taking over Minneapolis and sending billions of dollars to terrorists.
So a couple of things. One, vote. Let's get rid of those people. If my congressman gets up and he starts promoting, and my congressman is Congressman Ezell, if he gets up and starts promoting that we need to accept, and we need to accept the Muslim faith, listen, we're going to have somebody run against him. We're going to try to primary him if he does that. Now, I don't think he will do that, but if he did that, we would try to work to primary, because I'm not going to support any congressman or senator that is up pushing for us to accept a way of life of Muslims that want to destroy the very foundations of this country. And so one is, let's primary them. And we have midterms coming up next year. Second thing, the reason why a lot of these Muslims or a lot of these men and women will be up saying that is because look where they're getting money from. Listen, whether you like it or not, a lot of these Muslims have money. And so they're funding a lot of these campaigns through, not necessarily through personal donations, but through PACs. You know, they get their PACs and they have a lobbyist that'd be in D.C. lobbying, you know, for these congressmen and congresswomen to be saying these type of things. And these PACs will be supporting. And you and I, most people, the naked eye, we won't know that it's a PAC supported by Muslims that is causing a lot of these congresswomen and men to get out and promote these things. So that's another way is follow the money, money. And so, but primary, get somebody to run against them, and let's get somebody in there that's going to promote the American values and not Islamic values, because those are two totally different things.
Exactly right, Dan. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. The hour went way too fast. We're going to have to do more shows on this, and I hope you'll be able to come back on. Afraid, and that's what we need. We need Christians and pastors and leaders in our community and elected offices that are not afraid to tell the truth to the American people and get them focused on this threat, because that's what it is. All right, I'll be out tomorrow on Truth Thursday, and I'll be back next Whistleblower Wednesday, a week from today, with Emerald Robinson, talking about the biggest story in America that the corporate media refuses to cover, the election fraud that's been uncovered that emanates out of Venezuela. That's right. That's where the Dominion company from the machines was emanated from, and Emerald has got the story. I can't wait for that show. I'll see you then on the Rob Maness Show.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube